to design this robot modelling that was released,
Yes.
Had on September 17 the average cases for Melbourne would be 63. It's much lower than that.
Yes.
Are you going to do some new modelling and set some new timelines, given we're well ahead of this modelling?
Well, as I've said a number of times, Rich, actuals always beat assumptions. Data always trumps any model, even a robust model that's had input from many experts, multiple universities, 1,000 different inputs into that model. We update it regularly. I can't give you an exact date when we'll rerun it because it's not a just press a button. It does actually take 24 hours plus for all of those different permutations and combinations to be run through. But every Victorian can rest assured that as each day passes, not just in a quantitative and a qualitative sense. So the point I made yesterday a bit was, or tried to, there's the notion of numbers, very important. Then there's the notion of what narrative, what circumstances, what story sits behind each of those cases. And then the passage of time, which I know is frustrating, but the latency of this virus means that you do have to wait some time because you won't know what the effect of your decisions has been for at least 10 to 14 days. So that's why some of these steps there's a considerable period between them, and that's kind of the fight that we're in. If you had a quick turnaround and you'd start to see the impacts in days, just a few days, then of course you could compress things down. But wickedly, that's part of the challenge we face.
Isn't that the whole point of having a 14-day rolling average, though? So you're not just relying on a couple of days' numbers, you are taking into account the last couple of weeks?
Oh, and again, if we finish up, as I've said a number of times, and you can flip around what I've said as well, if the tail of this thing is more stubborn than we hope, then of course we reserve the right to make a judgment at some point, well, this is as good as it's going to get, so therefore we have to adjust things for that. The opposite is true also. If we are confident that we've got an accurate picture via test numbers, that's why it's so important. Any symptoms, get tested. If we see test numbers get to a point where they're no longer a good proxy for how much virus is out there, then that makes those decisions really, really tough. But of course, if we finish up ahead of schedule, then we will adjust things, and we'll have more to say about that at the appropriate time. But again, if only it was just one 14-day period. That's why it's rolling, so we add to it each day, and you've got to see patterns that are truly representative of what's happening out there. The moment we believe we have that, and the moment that was to say to us, for instance, well, we think we can go faster without risking it being a short-term thing, not something you can lock in, well, then of course we would update.
Are you concerned that after the lockdowns, workplaces closed, that you've still got, I think it's 83 cases since the lockdown of community transmission? Does that limit our ability to get out of lockdown? Even if the averages come down and you've still got all these community transmissions, does that limit the ability to meet those? Well,
this has been a point of debate and discussion around the fact that we've not only talked about total positive cases, but we have to be mindful also of those mystery cases. They are a really important part of this. And I know that's very challenging, but the tolerances need to be quite low as well on total cases, and certainly those mystery cases. Logic just tells you for every mystery case, there's at least one other case out there where they got it from. That person's got close contacts. They in turn have close contacts. You can have a problem, you can have a pocket of this virus that's quite active and not necessarily know. I wouldn't say that we're any more or less concerned about those matters. They've always been a challenge, but that's why so much investigative work and hard work goes into trying to run those cases to ground so that you know exactly, or as best you can, where that came from. So it's no longer a mystery. It becomes part of your certainty and then informs the difficult judgments that we have to make.
Given